Hey everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest Tim's Tabletop Tips episode, where I talk about all things related to tabletop gaming and D&D and homebrew and etc. Tips and tricks for new players, old players alike. Hopefully these are things that you can find useful. Some of you might already know these things, but some of you might not. Either way, hopefully you'll give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get more like this as we continue to work on this series throughout 2022. Today we're going to be talking about if you're a first-time player, pre-made characters might be the best solution for you. This is actually an old friend of mine I've known for many, many years, Dave. He left a comment on my YouTube channel about him and his family had tried to get into D&D, and it was really a challenge for them because by the time they got done creating characters for the first time, it kind of just was this situation where it was hard to keep everyone engaged because it took so long to figure out the rules and figure out how to make a character and deal with stats and all the abilities and feats and everything else. So I thought I would do an episode today on um, why pre-made characters are a good thing if you're a first-time player to D&D. Now, before we dive in, if you don't know who I am and you're like, why should I listen to this guy? Why should I care? I have been DMing for a very long time, since the mid 90s, and I have created two worlds in tabletop. The first is the world of the Saga of Lucemia, which was created as an MMORPG, and then the current world that we're working on, which is the Weave in the Void, which is our major project right now, which I'm working on with my brother and my wife. Alongside, we got Nathan Napalm doing character art. The source book and the first campaign module are due out in June of this year, 2022. We've been DMing live over on the Weave in the Void Twitch channel on Sunday nights the past 3 months. We've got a whole new campaign coming up this summer. So you can dig in all that stuff. All the links to the Weave in the Void stuff are down below, including our Patreon page where you can pre-order the books and all that good stuff. So check out those links. Pre-made. So I actually used a pre-made character for Chris, getting into this recent campaign that we've been playing with the Lost Mine of Phandelver. Chris being my wife, those of you who've been here for around a long time know who she is, but she had never played any tabletop before, ever. And we're not playing physically, we're playing via virtual tabletop. We're using Fantasy Grounds. I will be doing an episode on VTT programs in the next one, so stick around for that. But she had never played before, and I sat down with Chris off the stream and on her own over several sessions and just sort of walked her through Dungeons and Dragons and all the races and classes. And by the time we were about 6 hours in, I realized that this just wasn't feasible for me to try to have her create a character from scratch because we were 6 hours in. She had lots of questions. I'm giving her all sorts of answers, but it was also the situation of we're 6 hours in and we haven't even gotten to character creation yet because we're still talking about how to play the game and what is tabletop and how does tabletop work and all this other stuff. 6 hours in as a new player and you haven't even gotten to character creation yet, that's overwhelming. And while it can be a joy to create a character from scratch, if you're someone like myself who's been playing D&D for, 30 some years, you don't necessarily want to have a new player be overwhelmed by something that is the least important in my mind. It's the least important and least interacting, if I could say it that way, part of a tabletop campaign. Character creation is important, your character is important, but far more important is actually playing that character, role playing with your friends, throwing the dice, getting into the campaign, going through combat scenarios, going through role play scenarios, completing quests, so on and so forth, leveling up that character. So it's far more useful to take a pre-made character for a brand new individual. If they've never played tabletop before, give them a pre-made. If you have ever done like a starter pack from like Wizards of the Coast, they have pre-made characters for those. Anytime you've ever played, if you have ever played, if you haven't, then anytime you've ever played a game, an RPG, a CRPG, a computer role-playing game that has ported over from a tabletop game, like say Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Pillars of Eternity, any types of those types of games, they're always going to include a pre-made series of characters for you to choose from because they're meant to be there as a useful tool for people who might not have ever played or might not even be interested in spending tons of time and hours and hours creating their own character from scratch. So it's a good thing to have those types of options available. So after the 6 hours and everything else, we were starting to get into the character creation, and Chris was like, starting to be overwhelmed because we'd already been doing 6 hours of how to play tabletop, what is D&D, and all this other stuff. Then we get to character creation, and now she's faced with, oh my God, there's 30 races to choose from, and there's 30 classes to choose from. There's subclasses, there's stats, there's feats, there's abilities, there's backgrounds, there's this, that, and the other. There's equipment packs and inventory, and it was this thing where she was getting very frustrated. So when I saw Dave's comment, I was like, that's brilliant. I need to make an episode about this. Pre-made characters are great because they get rid of all that stuff and they just give you a character that's already been created, all the stats are in place, all the equipment's already there, all the backgrounds are chosen, everything else, and you can just jump in and start playing that character without needing to know anything else about it. Does it have a backstory? Maybe. If it does, cool, you can just use that. If it doesn't, you can create, at the very least, create your own backstory for that character and use that to role play your way in the situation or with the campaign that you're working in the group that you're playing with. Um, but I think it's a great option. I know once we got Chris going, it was literally just sitting down and saying, okay, well, rather than doing all that, what do you want to do? Do you want to be like a melee character? Do you want to be a ranged character? Do you want to be a caster? And she immediately gravitated to the idea of a ranged character. Sort of because we'd been playing EverQuest 2 in Lord of the Rings Online, and so she had been getting into MMORPGs, and so she was kind of familiar with the idea of having a bow and shooting things and everything else. So the ranger made the best choice for her, and then the decision to be a wood elf was actually her decision based on the fact that she says, "Well, I've got long black hair, and I can braid my hair, and I can do like that wood elf type vibe for the streams." And I was like, "Sold." Here's a pre-made wood elf character, and we just used the very simple character creator wizard within Fantasy Grounds, and within 3 minutes, I think we had a character created from scratch because it did it all for her. I think the only thing she really had to choose um, was between a couple of feats, and I just sort of did that for her because based on what I knew she wanted to play, and it was very quickly done. So even if you don't have pre-made character sheets already ready to go, if you're the DM and you have a new player coming in, the easiest way to do it, ask them a couple questions like, what do you think you might want to enjoy the most? Do you think you might want to throw fireballs at things? Do you think you're more comfortable, sneaking around and maybe being like the assassin type? Do you want to be picking locks and sneak, sleight of hand? Do you want to be juggling things? Do you want to be, doing music and maybe bard stuff? Do you want to do melee? Ask them those types of questions, and that will very quickly allow you to just go, okay, this person wants to be a halfling bard who uses a crossbow. Boom. And you can very quickly draft up a character sheet, give them some basic stats, and here's your character sheet. You're good to go. I think it's a great way to get characters in and out and into the campaign. And from there, I can say, for those of you who have been watching our stream over the past few months as we've gone through the Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign, I'm sure you've noticed that Chris has, in the very beginning, in those first few episodes, she was very quiet and very unsure of herself. And then as she's gotten better at playing, she's like, oh, I have this Cure Light Wounds spell now because I'm level 3 and I can heal my party members. Oh, and now I'm level 4 and I can use this Ensnaring spell, or I can use Hail of Thorns spell. And oh, I have my fog spell and I can do these things as well as shoot my bow. And that is because we started her off very simply, and then she got used to playing that character over the first 6 or 8 sessions. Then she got a level up, and it was like, oh well, I already know what all these things do. Now I kind of understand the character. Now it's easy for me to make a decision about what to do for level 2 to expand my character. And then by the time we got to level 3, she knew even more. By the time we got to level 4, she's very comfortable now at level 4. So yeah, pre-made characters, highly recommended for first-time players. Let me know your thoughts below and how you use pre-made characters. It'd be great to hear your guys' thoughts as well. Don't forget to like this video and go ahead and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you get future updates in this series and beyond. Don't forget to check out all the other stuff we're doing here on YouTube. There are playlists. Not there is a playlist. There are lots of playlists. We have a Discord. Links are down below. And don't forget, if you want to pre-order our tabletop source book and the first campaign module, which are due out in June of this year. You can head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/wandering hermits. Links are down there, and you can pre-order those books. You can also just subscribe at $3 a month and get the book chapters delivered to you as they're published twice a month for the actual fantasy novel. There's also a point-and-click game. You can download the free demo, pre-order that, all sorts of good things. Check all that stuff down below, and hopefully we'll see you in the next episode. Happy gaming, everybody. Until next time.